All right, here we go. This is a tutorial on how to calculate unemployment and how to calculate the labor force participation rate. So here we go. First of all, we have to understand some definitions. If we understand these definitions, the rest of it will be easy. Okay? First one, unemployed workers. So to be considered unemployed, you have to not have a job, and this is the important part, you have to be actively looking for one, searching, seeking. Okay, you're filling out applications nonstop. All right. Employed worker. All right. Now this one's a little bit strange, but if you work just 1 hour a week for pay, or 15 hours a week as a volunteer, you're considered an employed worker in the calculation of the unemployment rate. Okay. So these two things here, as long as you understand, categorically what is an unemployed worker and what is an employed worker, it'll be super easy to calculate the unemployment rate. Okay? Now, this is where it can be confusing. There's such a thing as a discouraged worker. This is somebody who at one point in time lost their job and became unemployed. But they've been unemployed for so long that they've lost all hope and have given up looking for work. Okay? So a lot of the people in our economy today don't have jobs. They would like jobs, but they've basically given up. So they're no longer considered unemployed. Okay? So that's what a discouraged worker is. Now, you also need to understand what the labor force is. Okay? The labor force is the people in our economy that are available to work. Okay? So it's basically the number of people that are unemployed, by definition up here, okay, plus the number of people that are employed, by definition. Okay? Our economy is considered to be fully employed when we have an unemployment rate between 4 and 6%. Okay? To calculate the unemployment rate, all you do is you take the number of people that are unemployed and you divide by the number of people that are in the labor force. Again, those definitions are important. And then you multiply that by 100 and it gives you an unemployment rate. The labor force participation rate, this is the number of people that are in the labor force divided by the number of people of working age that are not institutionalized. Okay? So the working age part's important enough. We're going to do an example. All right? And then you multiply that by 100 to turn it into a percent. So basically, we're now going to calculate unemployment rates. All right? Here's a super simple one. Okay? Just to get us started. Assume there are 10 people unemployed. That means they don't have jobs but are looking. Okay? That's the only reason it would say that. And then there's 90 people employed. All right? That means they work at least 1 hour a week for pay or 15 hours a week as a volunteer. So to calculate the unemployment rate, we're going to take the number of people that are unemployed, so we were given that is 10, and we're going to divide by the labor force. So what is the labor force? It's these 10 plus these 90. Okay? So the labor force would be 100. Multiply that by 100, and our unemployment rate in this example is 10%. See, that's super simple, right? All right, no problem. Now, let's do it where I give you a bunch of numbers where most of the numbers are not important. Okay? So how to calculate unemployment? First of all, we need to remember the unemployment rate is equal to the number unemployed divided by the number in the labor force times 100. So let's go through this list of people and their activities to determine who is considered unemployed. So we'll get that number first. All right, there are 10 people that don't have jobs and are actively searching. Okay, those 10 people are considered unemployed. Okay, so the number unemployed, okay, we'll put it in this column. There we have 10. Okay, there are 10 people that don't have jobs and have stopped looking. All right, these people here are discouraged workers. They are not considered unemployed. All right, 10 people left the workforce to raise their families. Okay, we didn't talk about this one, but if they left the workforce, they don't have jobs anymore. But are they actively searching for a job? No. So they are not part of the labor force. Not part of labor force. Okay? There are 40 people that can only find part-time work. Are they considered unemployed? No. They have a job, so they're not considered unemployed. Let me put another column up here. Number labor force. Okay? So those people, these 40 people that can only find part-time work, they're considered employed and part of the labor force. Okay? By the way, these 10 that are actively seeking, they're also part of the labor force. All right, there are 20 people receiving disability. All right, well, you know, a lot of times if you receive disability, that means you don't have a job, but if you're disabled, you're probably not looking for a job. Okay, so they're not part of the labor force or part of unemployment. There's 100 people under the age of 16. Okay, they are not part of the labor force. Okay, you have to be above 16 or 16 and over. There are 10 full-time students. Full-time students, they don't have jobs, but are they considered unemployed? Well, are they actively searching? The answer is no. So they are not part of the labor force. There are 100 people with full-time jobs, all right? They're part of the labor force, so we'll add them in. There are 20 people retired. Well, that means they don't have a job, but it doesn't mean they're unemployed, because if they're retired, that means they're choosing not to work, so they're not searching. There's 10 people in nursing homes. All right, the 10 people in nursing homes, they can't work. They're considered institutionalized. Same thing with the 5 people in prison. All right, so we've got, let's calculate our numbers now. We have 10 people unemployed divided by the labor force. 140 plus 10 is 150 times 100. And what does that give us? I have to calculate it. 10 divided by 150 times 100. All right, it is 6.67%. That's the unemployment rate. Now let's go back to our definition of full employment. Would you judge the economy is doing pretty good if it was 6.67? The answer is no, you wouldn't, because that's a little bit too high. Okay, so that's how we calculate unemployment. All right, a whole bunch of the people there are not considered part of the labor force. They're also not considered part of the unemployed people. So that's why you have to understand those definitions. If we go back to those definitions, as long as you keep those straight, you will be able to calculate unemployment rates. Okay? Now let's look at the labor force participation rate. This is the number of people in the labor force divided by the number of people of working age that are not institutionalized. Okay? So the people in nursing homes and in prison, they are not going to be part of this working age. Okay? So let's go to do that one now. So we have the same population here. All right? And so on this one, we want to just figure out who is part of the labor force. So I'm going to put a little question mark up here. Labor force. Okay? The 10 people that don't have jobs and are actively searching, yes, they are part of the labor force. Okay? And then let's do this over here. Another number about, let's see, I'll put it working age population. Okay? Those 10, they're part of it. Now let's look at the 10 people that don't have jobs and have stopped looking. Okay? They are capable of working. They're part of the working age population, so we'll add that in. Okay? Those 10 people, though, are not part of the labor force because they're not considered unemployed and they're not employed. So that's 0 for labor force. All right, 10 people left the workforce to raise their families. Well, here's a key. They've left the workforce, so they're not part of the labor force. However, these could be moms or Mr. Moms that have decided to quit their job and stay home. They're capable of working, so they're part of the working age population. There are 40 people that can only find part-time work. All right, well, they work part-time, therefore they are part of the labor force because they're considered fully employed. Okay, they're also part of the working age population. All right, there are 20 people receiving disability. This one can be a little confusing, so it's not going to be something that, well, I'm not going to test you on something that's this ambiguous, but I'm going to tell you right now, they're receiving disability, but chances are there's some job out there that they can do. So we're going to consider them part of the working age population, but not part of the labor force. So we'll put that in there, 20. Okay, 100 people under the age of 16. All right, Those 100 people under the age of 16, they're not part of the labor force, okay? And they're not part of the working age population. 10 full-time students, okay? Those 10 full-time students, they're not part of the labor force because they're not searching for work. However, they are part of the working age population. Then we have the 100 people in full-time jobs. They are part of the labor force, and they're part of the working age population. Okay, we have 20 people retired. All right, you got to understand this. Retired doesn't mean dead. You can still work, okay? They're choosing not to right now, so they're not part of the labor force. However, if they wanted to, they could work, okay? And then we have 10 people in nursing homes. Okay? The 10 people in nursing homes, they are not part of the labor force. They cannot work. Whoops. Okay? And they're not part of the working age population because they're institutionalized. Same thing with the people in prison. Not part of the labor force, not part of the working age population. All right, so the labor force participation rate, now what we do is we take the number in the labor force and we divide by the number their working age and then multiply that by 100. So, let's see, the labor force, it's still 150. That's what it was on the previous slide. The working age population is going to be 10, 20, 30, 70, 90, 100, 200, 220. And then times 100. And let's go ahead and calculate that. Let's see, 150 divided by 220 times 100. So we end up with a labor force participation rate of 68.18%. All right?